You're listening to Don't Waste Water.
There's still plenty of market to be had, so it is a huge opportunity. And in our lifetime, the biggest market growth we ever experienced in the water space. It's kind of exciting to be part of that.
Hello, bonjour, and welcome to the Don't Waste Water podcast.
There's a whole range of contaminants in the water. PFAS is the most prominent, and that's why we keep talking about PFAS, but there's certainly also others.
I'm your host, Antoine Walter, and in today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome back Mirka Wilderer as my guest.
We're the PFAS solution provider, and so as a PFAS solution provider, we're obviously looking at the market space and what's the technology in that space. Foam fractionation is something that we identified early on as a true differentiator.
Mirka is the CEO of AqueoUS Vets.
Big mantra is focus, focus, focus. Do what you can do really well. This is such a huge market opportunity in that core space that we cannot do our reputation justice by quickly rush into that and serve the customers equally well.
AqueoUS Vets leverages its team of water industry veterans to remove PFAS and other harmful contaminants from the US water supply, protecting the health and environment of communities around the country by providing sustainable access to clean water.
There's different maturity levels in terms of PFAS removal in the various states. Of course, the states that have their own state-level MCLs are more advanced, and we see more activity in those.
And before we start, let me thank my sponsors, Simple Lab and Bluefoot Membranes.
The vision for the business is to continue be that pure player, differentiated towards contaminants of emerging concerns such as PFAS.
In January 2022, Bain Capital Double Impact Fund, a $1.9 billion fund part of the Bain Galaxy and its $185 billion under management, took over a small but mighty Californian scale-up named AqueoUS Vets. This move was quite unusual on many levels, as Mirka will tell us in a minute.
We're the first manufacturing company in that fund, the first water company in that fund, but they're looking for businesses that have, as per the name, an impact. And obviously with water technologies, there is a huge impact.
What's to add to the list of firsts is also the size of AqueoUS Vets at the time of the acquisition. There were maybe 60 employees for a turnover of certainly under $20 million. By any of the usual benchmarks in the water sector, this is uncommon. Yet this is maybe also revealing of a turning point. I've listed last week all the moves that Science Water, Amber, Glenwood, Pennybacker, New Mountain, Sun, KKR, Blackstone, Frontenac, Engelino Group, and many others recently did in water, proving that private equity warms itself to the water investment thesis. But what's to be noted here as well is that there is not a single blueprint for that PE water focus, but rather 3 routes. Route number 1, the classical PE, I'd say. Take over a company in trouble, flip it, sell it for a premium. Past water examples have been EQT's involvement in SOAR until they sold half of it, or even more relevant, AEA Investors' acquisition of the then Siemens Water, which they renamed Evoqua, IPO'd and ultimately sold to Xylem. That's what's at play when KKR aligns itself to buy the bleeding Thames Water or the also bleeding, even if still absurdly profitable, Nestle Waters. Route number 2, carve out a specific water player and use it then as platform to further build it upon reaching a critical scale, at which you may want to sell it to a bigger fish or, rarely in water though, lead it to IPO. That's what we saw in last week's episode with Glenwood's LG Chem deal, while we have a very timely additional example with EQT's acquisition of Seven Seas Water from Morgan Stanley Infrastructure Partners just 5 days ago. But route number 3, as in Bain's investment in AqueoUS Vets, or in Pennybacker's takeover of Cambrian Innovation, or even in Science Water's exploration of that earlier stage, is a bit more uncommon in that it ventures in stages usually reserved for late VC or growth stage capital, a space with higher multiples to make, yes, but also higher risks to take. So does that mean that private equity suddenly became risk tolerant? Well, maybe. It's not for me to answer, but I'd say it rather proves that the water theme reached a level of maturity and dare I say, inevitability that makes it by essence a de-risked move. I mean, it's not like water reuse or removal of emerging contaminants would be going anywhere. Like it or hate it, those will be a must in the decades to come, and they will be on the critical path of industrials working on their core and utilities protecting their customers' health. So what makes AqueoUS Vets so much of a standout? We'll find out with Mirka, as she'll tell us how they built a pure-play PFAS removal company that's media agnostic, why, as I already teased it, Bain Capital's first water investment signals an inflection point in PE interest, but also how they're supporting AqueoUS Vets' hyper-growth. We'll discuss the strategic rationale behind acquiring Dixie tanks for vertical integration, why foam fractionation is the unlocking key for PFAS concentration, how a 100-plus person team competes with water giants, and much, much more. Right after I remind you that if you like what you hear, you should take this episode and share it with a friend, a colleague, your boss, or your team. It's only one WhatsApp message away and it helps me out tremendously. So please do it, and I'll meet you on the other side. Hi, Mirka. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Actually, I just checked because it's a premiere. The last time people heard you on that microphone, you were the CEO of Denora. And now you are in a totally different venture, which I'd love to cover in great depth. AqueoUS Vets. Do I pronounce that one right?
AqueoUS Vets, yes.
So AqueoUS Vets markets itself as a pure player in PFAS removal. And I'm wondering what makes you different in that PFAS word.
We're a pure player in the removal of any contaminants of emerging concern. But of course, PFAS is currently the one we're most focused on. And we have deep expertise in groundwater, surface water, landfill leachate treatment. Unlike other players that have a broad portfolio of solutions, we are laser focused on this particular space and offer both carbon as well as ion exchange-based systems. What makes us different? Well, we feel that we have a very strong innovation and differentiated offering in this space. And we have 4 principles that we follow in that space. And that is, when we design our systems, we optimize the media, selecting the right media that helps to optimize the treatment of the contaminants, respective to the unique characteristics of the site. We focus on corrosion control, so selecting material that helps to minimize corrosion. We look at hydraulic performance, so we design our systems for minimum head loss that helps us to reduce the energy, and of course with that greenhouse gas emission. And then ease of operations and maintenance, right? With the way we design our systems, the ease of getting components of the system. So low CapEx, low OpEx, ease of operations. We have a patented system design that is smaller in footprint, that helps again with different infrastructure availabilities. And then our concept to commission approach that helps us to be really customer focused. And we feel that we do that as best as no one else in the industry.
There's a lot to unpack in what you just said. Let me start with that one. You mentioned innovation, and then you also mentioned that you have a patent on the system itself. So is that the innovation, or where is the innovation in that?
System design, we call it the low pro system. That's patented, and that's where we have innovation, right? And the differentiation in the market. And it is the way it is set up with, for example, the way we have our under drain nozzles positioned to help us to reduce the underutilized media in the vessel, the way we use single lining for corrosion protection, the setup of the external ring headers that help us to keep pressure low, various different design elements that are innovative. But then I strongly believe that innovation is not just in the technology, but also in the way we work with our customers. And so this concept to commission approach for us is a way of being customer-centric as we work with our customers from the early design of a system all the way through manufacturing and installation, really trying to be as customer focused.
I was aiming at addressing that one later, but now I want to have clarity and to have a definition. So you say concept to commission. How's that different from design build?
It works with any of the procurement methods. We start working with the customer all the way to piloting, selecting the right media with the right performance for their water quality, and then work with them through the design of the system, and then manufacturing and including the side pipe, which is unique. And then installation, we pre-fit all the equipment at the manufacturing site, and that allows us to install a unit within hours and not weeks or days. We feel that this concept to commission isn't just a design build approach, but a true unique way that we have set up to serve our customers.
So just before we go in the depth of it, I want to acknowledge and understand where you're coming from, because AqueoUS Vets, and honestly, we have to discuss the name at some point. It wasn't created by you. You stepped in as a CEO in 2023. And that to me somewhat follows the investment of a pretty large company, with Bain investing in AqueoUS Vets in 2022. So are those two events really linked? And if they are, what's the vision with you stepping in following that move?
AqueoUS Vets, and the name, of course, goes to Aqua, and then US with the US focus. And then that's water veterans that Rob, as he founded the company 2015, pulled together. The founding team had in-depth knowledge of carbon and ion exchange systems. And with that in-depth knowledge, they were able to make these design improvements that we discussed earlier and establish this customer-centric approach. So the founding team came in with this vision of let's not treat every customer the same, not a cookie cutter approach, but meet the customers with the best design that is there by optimizing it as they had. Bain came in and acquired the company. And then a year later, I was honored to take over the CEO role, working closely with Rob. He's the chairman of the board at this point and a close advisor to me as I'm carrying his legacy forward. The vision for the business is to continue be that pure player, differentiated towards contaminants of emerging concerns such as PFAS, right? There's a lot more that we can do. There's obviously also other contaminants emerging, as the word says. And so we want to be really focused on serving this market well and with innovative approaches.
When it comes to PFAS itself, it sounds to me like what kicked off AqueoUS Vets on that track is building California's first PFAS removal plant.
Correct.
What's the story of that one? And then how do you build from that?
AqueoUS Vets is established in California, and our first plant is up at north in Redding, California. At first, we were able to do a number of non-PFAS related projects in the state, and with that, demonstrate our value to the Orange County Water District team. But based on building their trust with these other projects, then we got involved with Yorba Linda, which, of course, as you said, very exciting to be part of the largest PFAS treatment system in North America, 25 MGD. Winning this particular project, of course, then gave us a reference project for future projects. Now we have installations really nationwide, whether it's in the city of Stewart in Florida or Cottage Grove up in Minnesota, or even now the first project in Rhode Island. So coast to coast on all corners. And certainly it goes back to the reputation we started establishing with Yorba Linda, which we then now try to live up on every single project.
You mentioned coast to coast and all around the country. Roughly speaking, how many references do you have today?
We number our projects, and we're currently executing projects in the 120th number. So 125, 926.
That's a cool way to look at projects, to number them. I really like it. What I'm curious about is I had a look into that East Coast, West Coast divide in the US when it comes to PFAS removal. Because the EPA says you can use either ion exchange or activated carbon. You're not deciding between the two, you're saying you can do the two. But still, if you look at how the country behaves, West Coast goes for ion exchange, East Coast goes for activated carbon. Do you have a rationale for that?
As you said, there's a country divide. The West more ion exchange focused, the East carbon focused. I think there is a legacy on the East, familiarity with carbon based on VOC treatment or DPP treatments that have been established for a long time. We actually have also ion exchange reference projects on the East, such as Cottage Grove or City of Stewart. So it's not black or white. It really depends on the water chemistry and the water quality of each site. And we intentionally stay away from a cookie cutter approach saying you're in the West, you're in the East, hence you have to use this approach. Instead, we look to work with the customers to understand the water quality, the hydraulic performance of each site, and then work with them to determine what's the best media and what's the best design to ensure that they get lowest cost of ownership. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. And then, of course, there's other media. We get more and more customers asking about surface modified clay. So more complicated than one or two.
So that means that despite the EPA clearly saying there's those two, well, more might be coming up with different media, with different, I don't know, from fractionation, whatever else might be coming. And your lens is total cost of ownership and you're going to go for the lower, whatever it takes to go to the lower.
Correct. That's exactly right. Lowest cost of ownership for our customers, determining which media will provide that best solution to the customer. And by the way, we do have our own line of carbon now, EcoCarb, that we launched last year. It's domestically sourced and sustainable, so we're excited about that. But again, no preference there in terms of what's the best media for our customer, and then we'll design the system from there.
So that means for carbon, you have your own medium. For ion exchange, you would source someone else's.
Correct.
Purolite, most probably?
Amongst others, yes.
Okay.
We say we're media agnostic, right? We don't represent anyone in particular because our mandate is towards the customer.
So what led you to develop your own carbon?
It is domestically sourced, so that was one key driver there, and then sustainable. So just having an option there that will allow us to compete with the other players in the market.
That was one of my interrogations, because when it comes to carbon especially, the suppliers of carbon are also more and more the suppliers of activated carbon-based solutions to remove PFAS. So they might be at the same time your suppliers and your competitors. How do you handle that? Now I have my answer. You have your own carbon.
Yes.
Was that part of the decision process, or am I fantasizing here?
No, you're right. Yeah, of course.
Okay, you're agnostic, but being agnostic is also a difficult position, because when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, which has its drawbacks because you're really going to hammer stuff which you should not hammer, but it also has its advantages. You go out in the market and you tell your same story all the time. If you're agnostic, that means you need every time to collect some water samples, to do some testings, to really tailor it and not have the cookie cutter approach. How's the process? How does it look like? Do you really go every time with a sample, a pilot? How does it work?
So, I mean, that's why we're focusing on this space of the market. We don't have a portfolio with multiple different other technologies. Our hammer is the removal of contaminants of emerging concern, right? So that's what we're focusing on. And as you rightfully said, we want to provide our customers with the best solution for their particular situation. And so, yes, we do start opportunity ideally with piloting. Not every customer wants to pilot. Some have their mind set up. Then we start with the design, and then work with the customers from there to then select the size, the number of vessels, etc., to have the best possible solution for them.
Does that mean you're taking process guarantees where you tell them, okay, you need to have so and so much removal, follow us, and you're going to get it, but also you're liable for it? Sorry for the cut, but actually Mirka sent me a more precise answer after stopping the recording, and I thought it was worth mentioning here. So what she told me is, while performance guarantees aren't frequently required, when they are, AqueoUS Vets is prepared to offer them for their treatment systems. These guarantees are typically based on solid data, either from rapid small-scale column tests, RSSCT, or pilot studies to ensure that the proposed media will meet the project's treatment goals under real-world conditions. That way you have the exhaustive answer to my question, and you know what? If already I interrupted the interview, let me thank my sponsor, Simple Lab. If you're in the water industry, Simple Lab has you covered. Simple Lab is your one-stop shop for certified laboratory testing kits, from routine lead sampling to walk-ins and specialized analyses like microplastics, PFAS, and RADs. Order the testing you want online, choose from hundreds of accredited commercial labs, get free round-trip shipping both ways, and by the way, if you have your own lab and just want help with kitting and logistics, Simple Lab can do that for you too. No more coordinating labs, chasing shipments, or wrangling EDDs. Just streamlined ordering, clear results, and real support when you need it. It's lab testing simplified. Head to gosimplelab.com. It's the first link in the description. Choose your test, and they'll take care of the rest. Thanks again, Simple Lab, and back to me. You mentioned the tanks. So you're media agnostic. I get it, even though now you have your own carbon, but roughly speaking, you're agnostic. What you found in common is that both activated carbon and ion exchange need tanks. So you thought, okay, that's something we need. And also, being a West Coast company, you might need an East Coast leg. And that's how I see your acquisition of Dixie Tanks. Do I understand that one right? What's the story?
Yeah, so the intent of the acquisition of Dixie Tanks was to support our nationwide expansion and have a place, a location on the East Coast for us to vertically integrate and build the systems for East Coast customers. In addition, of course, now having tanks in our own value chain helps us to much better control our value chain. And that is a benefit, especially when it comes to lead times. So that's an important differentiator for us now on the East Coast as well. But on the other hand, it's such a strong growing market that There's no way we can supply all of our systems that we build with our own tanks. So we continue work closely with our partners that we have from the beginning on the West Coast. And it really allows us to flex our capacity as this market continues to grow. So it's been a neat opportunity for us in this East Coast expansion and helped us to grow our reach into the market.
Let me acknowledge where the next question comes from. I mean, you see it here in my back. I'm working for a company doing pipes, and we find that super exciting. So I'm not judging. It seems to me like tanks, exactly like pipes, are boring stuff. So you have this PFAS removal element, which is super trendy, super sexy. Everybody wants to do PFAS removal. If you walk through WefTech, if you walk through Aquatech, every second or third company has a claim on PFAS because that's really the thing people are discussing. And what you're looking at is we need tanks. That's the one. So is it about when the market zigs, you zag? And what drives this vertical integration?
We jokingly also say we sell 2 tanks and a mini as what our offering is. But again, there's a lot more that goes into it, especially when you want to do it well. And as you say, with pipes, right, it looks maybe boring to someone that's not involved in depth in all the elements that are required for the application of that. But there's a lot more to it, right? And so understanding how to apply it when and under which situation really helps to then provide the customers with what they need.
You mentioned potentially new medium. I get how that's directly close to what you're doing because, you replace one of your existing medium by another one. If it came to foam fractionation, would you be following that? Because that's now something really different, right?
Yeah. So I'm smiling because, yes, we are following foam fractionation. Think about it. We're the PFAS solution provider. And so as a PFAS solution provider, we're obviously looking at the market space and what's the technology in that space. Foam fractionation is something that we identified early on as a true differentiator. And so we're actually announcing the launch of our Foam Pro system here shortly. I just looked at the press release earlier today, and we're super excited about expanding our portfolio now with a novel foam fractionation system for high concentration PFAS.
So that's very timely. Is it an internally grown foam fractionation system, or is it something where you're teaming up and partnering with someone else?
We are partnering for the system. It is a patented vacuum approach that we have worked together. And again, very excited to launch this as our technology to move towards more high concentration PFAS applications.
High concentration PFAS, that's an interesting proxy because you mentioned your PFAS play. You then don't mention you're a PFAS removal play. So does that mean that PFAS destruction is also part of the picture?
Right now, as we are media agnostic, we're also destruction agnostic, right? We look at the various players in the market. I don't think any single technology has made the race yet, and there's pros and cons for each one of them. And so the foam fractionation is the unlocking key in between, right? Concentrating the PFAS, and then it can be sent, whether it's supercritical water oxidation systems or plasma or electrochemical oxidation. But again, then we remain destruction agnostic. At this point in time, we'll see how that part of the market develops and who's going to make the race there.
You're agnostic, and what you're saying is non-binding, absolutely. But you have such an experience in that sector, and you've seen so many technologies that what would be like your gut feeling? What's the technology which will make it?
I think that's too early to say. And I think it's also right for us, we have the customer access, and we want to be able to provide the customer with any of those that will ultimately be most successful in this situation. But I think right now it's too early to say.
Okay. So even plasma is in the race, because to me, that's the one I'm making jokes at every time, but I might be wrong. Let's go back to your scope. We touched on the concept to commission element. What exactly do you market? Is it something you put on the skids and then you deliver the skid and then you're an OEM? Do you do a bit more than that? You said you don't do like process guarantees, but there are lots of shades of gray in between. So what would be your typical scope?
So the typical scope, the system that has 2 tanks and a manifold in between, we call that one system. And then many customers will purchase multiple systems, right? So you could be 2 tanks, 4 tanks, 6 tanks, 8 tanks, and the side pipe that connects them to their system as well. So we will offer the system and then the installation, the hookup to their site, and the maintenance as it's needed.
So you would go from flange to flange. Like there's a system, With
Yes.
2 naked flange, you come in, you plug your stuff, you commission it, and you might be maintaining in the future.
And the beauty is of us pre-fitting everything in our manufacturing shop at home is literally we come up and we hook it up and it works. It's a matter of hours, not trying to fiddle things together as we're on site, taking a lot of the customer's time.
So when you mentioned, for instance, the low footprint, the interest is that as it's brownfields, you're going to need to fit your thing most probably between 2 flanges which are existing. So it's interesting to be able to fit in small spaces.
Yeah. We have customers where they're pouring the pad, so it's greenfield, and then we have customers with indoor where we have to fit through something, right? So every site will be a little different.
You know the US sector much better than me. For our listeners that might not be fully aware, it's incredibly scattered when it comes to those drinking water plants, municipal water plants. And I think 85 or 87% of the utilities have 3 employees or fewer. So it's really like a lot and a bunch of small plants. Those will have to equip themselves with PFAS removal at some point. And with a modular approach like yours, you could be a very good fit for that. How difficult would it be for an operator that's vastly untrained for this kind of applications to operate your plant? Is it something they can do with a little bit of training? Or is it something where at some point your vertical integration could go one step further where you say, you know what, we can also remotely operate?
We have actually looked into that a while ago, and we're considering the lower flow market. It's huge, as you said, lots of opportunity. It does require a much bigger footprint in terms of service support than what we currently had. And so we have decided to currently focus on the larger applications, those more trained operators. Just again, big mantra is focus, focus, focus. Do what you can do really well. This is such a huge market opportunity in that core space that we cannot do our reputation justice by quickly rush into that and serve the customers equally well. And so it's something that we're watching, right? How small could we go in our tank size? Certainly we have a space to become smaller, but it is the support infrastructure for that continued operations that we currently do not have in place. And so again, we don't want to just deliver equipment and wish the customer good luck, but support them as they can. And so that's maybe in the future.
You mentioned focus. Is the focus the US, or do you go even more state specific into very specific states which are faster moving?
So the focus is the US. And yes, there's different maturity levels in terms of PFAS removal in the various states. Of course, the states that have their own state level MCLs are more advanced, and we see more activity in those, right? Not just the West Coast with California, but the strengths there, but the Atlantic, the Great Lakes, some of the Southeast regions. There's other states that only follow the federal MCL. And so those tend to be earlier in their journey, testing, piloting. And so it's actually a good thing for us because there's so much opportunity that we're glad that it's staggering and that we're able to work with the customers as they come online and start looking for solutions for their PFAS treatment.
Especially if you go after the big ones, and you mentioned your limited reach in terms of services. I mean, like the team is what it is. How many people are at AqueoUS Vets today? 80 is my estimation, right?
Yeah, we're a little bigger than that. Yeah, we're north of 100.
Okay, north of the 100. So I was underestimating you by a mere 20-25%. Sorry about that. But still, you're competing with the giants, especially on the large plants. So how do you outcompete, name drop whoever you want to put here? Is it Veolia? Is it Xylem? Is it Calgon Carbon? Is it whoever you want to put in front of you? How do you outcompete them with a small focus team?
I think the word is focus, right? Focus on what we can do really well. And that's leading with the value of our technology and our very customer-centric approach. And so being very focused on customers that will value that, where we can have a play in that way. Also, in terms of partners such as the engineering firms, right? So we're really looking to provide that value if there's customer that is already locked in. So we actually, for each opportunity that comes up, we're evaluating how well is our fit. We give it a score of our fit for this particular opportunity. And then we'll focus on those with the highest score to make sure that we really have something of value to offer to the customer.
So let me put it in my word to see if I understand that one right. That means let's name drop someone. Let's imagine Orange County as a project. You go and talk with them, and then you try to understand if you're in the race or if you might be out of the race. If you feel you're in the race, then that's part of the focus and you're going to follow it and really put the resources in it. If not, an early no saves you time and efforts of the team.
That's correct.
Does that mean you could, I think the saying is not from me, it's from Wayne Barn when he was on that microphone a while ago. He said, it's good to be a knife in a street fight. And he was referring to the fact that if you're early enough with the technology and then the market suddenly booms, then the giants will not have the ability to build their own knives and they will fight it out, but you can be their knife and then they will use you. So I don't know how much you like the analogy. It's just the first that came to my mind. But how I would see that translating in your case is when we go out of that phase where municipalities need to measure what they have and we enter the next phase, which is they need to remove what they have. Well, you might still not be of a size where you can go after every single project, but the major can go after every single project and then distribute you and use you as a means to an end. How does that fit with your strategy?
In the water space, we see all of it, right? We see head-to-head competition between players that then also work as partners in particular situation. I think that's very unique to the water space. Certainly being agnostic as one of our themes that keeps coming back, right? We're absolutely looking to partner with various players in this space. We don't have a particular case yet with one of the big players that we compete against, right? But I think understanding what we are really good at helps to understand if someone else is bringing something to the table. And so I would say it's not part of the strategy per se, but I think it's part of the mindset of let's serve our customers really well. And what can we bring to the table? And where do we partner with someone that can complement us?
You're German, I'm French. Let's discuss US politics. Sounds absolutely logical, right? No, just the reason I'm bringing that up is Calgon Carbon signed that contract with American Water along the lines of if tariffs come in the way, at least that one is locked and we have it. If I understand you right, almost everything, if not everything you do is US based. So with the enforcement, enforcement, I don't know what's the status at the time that one gets published. But is that one of the assets you're bringing forward, was just to say, okay, regardless of what's happening with tariffs, work with us. You don't need to lock in a 30 reference contract. You don't need to lock in a price and do like super high purchaser fights between two big giants. We will always be local and hence not that much impacted by tariffs.
We've already had to comply to BABA requirements, Buy America, Build America, for a while now. So certainly we're not totally immune to tariffs and we're watching this closely, but we have in our value chain set up that we are already BABA compliant. And so, yes, we're a local player. That's where the U.S. comes in our name, AqueoUS, right? It carries the U.S. in there. We have 2 local manufacturing plants, local media on the carbon side. So we are watching the tariff updates as everyone else on a daily basis, but feel that we're able to navigate that well.
Have you ever heard of a membrane that refuses to break? It sounds uncommon, but it's true. Meet Bluefoot Membranes, a Belgian company that has developed the first and only unbreakable membrane specifically designed for MBR. If you're new here, membrane bioreactor applications. This technology is setting a new standard in wastewater treatment. Water engineers and industry experts have tested this membrane, and no matter how much they pull and twist, the membrane holds strong. Now, it's not just about membranes, it's also about an award-winning and passionate team that doesn't take impossible as an answer. The people at Bluefoot Membranes are driven by a mission to make wastewater reuse the new standard, united by a shared purpose to leave a blue footprint on the world. So yes, they manufacture cool membranes, but they also push the boundaries of what's possible in MBR technology. To learn more about them, check the link to their website in the description. A big thanks to Bluefoot Membranes for sponsoring this episode, and back to me. Beyond tariffs, you can't build a market if there's no market. So we all know that PFAS is coming. The question everybody has is how fast is it coming? You mentioned how some states would have a lag towards some other states, but there's still that lawsuit between the American Water Works Association and the US EPA. There are still like question marks. And from early signals you see in the field, would you say, okay, the big wave is going to come towards this 2029, like what's projected by regulation today, or no, there's going to be a lag? And I know you've been through, in your previous lives, through micropollutant removal. which had a bit of that same story of it's going to be big by the year 2000, the year is 2024, and it's still not big.
So yes, there's this ongoing lawsuit, and we're expecting a revision of the MCLs, but not an elimination. It is really a bipartisan topic. And then, of course, we have those states that have state-level MCLs that are already moving forward. And so in reality, it's allowing us to phase this market instead of everyone being busy or hitting the market right now. That would actually paralyze the available market capacity, right? Beyond us, there wouldn't be enough capacity to serve all the customers currently that would need it if it will go in full force. So it's actually helping us to phase this out a little further. Then, of course, there's the remedial side where PFOA and PFOS were declared as hazardous substance under CERCLA. Again, some review there, but we do see activities on federal sites in particular. And then there's other contaminants. In reality, our current footprint is only about 50% tied to PFAS, and the rest is other contaminants. And of course, other contaminants yet to come. So we're also focusing on 1,2,3 TCP, on TCE, other TTHM. So there's a whole range of contaminants in the water. PFAS is the most prominent, and that's why we keep talking about PFAS, but there's certainly also others.
The difference to me between PFAS and the others is that when the others were in discussion, like 1,4-dioxane was written big not so long ago, there was like a hype curve where really it was there and then not real big regulation and not real big enforcement. And then it kind of vanished. Whereas here, PFAS, almost to everyone's surprise, really made it to the regulation and to the it's going to happen lane. So which makes it a bit different from all the other ones, which might be equally concerning from an environmental health perspective, but don't have the same backing. Or do I miss something here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole water space is regulatory driven, right? And as you mentioned earlier, we've waited for many years on some of the other regulations. This one was a surprise, especially that the levels for the MCLs were set at such low level. Even if there would be now revised to what's being discussed, it would maybe reduce the market size by 10, 20%, but not more. And there's still plenty of market to be had. So it is a huge opportunity. And really, I mean, as you and I have probably seen in our lifetime, the biggest market growth we ever experienced in the water space. It's kind of exciting to be part of that.
So biggest market growth we will see in our careers. I would agree with that. Plus, you're backed by Bain. What prevents Bain from saying, you know what you're doing is exactly the right product market fit and the right timeliness to do that. Let's pour some more tens or hundreds of millions and let's hyper grow you so that you can go to every single place and you don't have to focus anymore.
So yes, it's been exciting to have Bain as a partner. And exactly that's, it's huge in supporting us to scale the business and enabling that growth. It's a great partnership there. We are intentionally US focused. You could ask, imagine there might be a future when Europe progresses in their journey, right, as the next natural step to grow towards. But it is interesting to take a company from that startup mode from 2015 to scaling it and what it takes to build out the foundation for hypergrowth. And so we're really focused on staying focused on building out the business in each function they're in to being able to meet those demands. And so again, staying focused is critical and not distract yourself with more complexity than necessary at any given point in time.
I hear you. That's a very rational answer. Now, if I look back at your path, the last company you led it to IPO, if I'm hiring you for this kind of mission, to me, it comes with an agenda. So how wrong would I be?
Yeah, the expectation is to grow this business tremendously. And we're on the journey towards that. Being owned by private equity does suggest that there will be a change of ownership sometime down the road. Bain has been incredibly patient. We're not externally following trends or pressure of now would be the time. We really want to bring the business to the right point of evolution. And then we'll see what that will mean in terms of change of ownership. I don't think this will be another IPO, but certainly we'll see how our journey continues on that path.
I'm going to archive that prediction because if it is an IPO, I can come take it out and say, hey, you mentioned Bain's profile. Is it right, or am I totally blind to a sector of the market, that water is a relatively new topic to them?
Yeah, so we're part of Bain Double Impact Fund. So it's the fund of Bain that is focused on impact businesses. We're the first manufacturing company in that fund, the first water company in that fund, but they're looking for businesses that have, as per the name, an impact. And obviously with water technologies, there is a huge impact on the livelihood of our societies, the communities that we live in. We have to monitor our impact in that dimension on how much water we treat, how much PFAS our technology removes. And then as a second leg to the business, we're also following impact ways of running a company that might feel at times this is nice to do, but there's actually proven that if you follow certain impactful ways, it makes you a better business. And it's certainly true for us. So every year we have goals along our impact journey based on our own environmental footprint, our social practices, our governance practices that we treat as our financial goals. And so it's fun to be part of a team that looks beyond the financials. And of course, the logic is that these things make you a better company that will then again translate into financials.
Last question on that Bain element. I mean, you're an angel investor yourself, right? Lots of the early stage investors I talk with all share one thing in common, which is they mention an inflection point, which the industry is going to go through or is going through or just happened. Like we are roughly around the inflection. And one of the signs of the inflection is that PE players start to really put their chips on water. So I would see Bain's move with AqueoUS Vets as part of that trend. And also, as you said, you're the first company which has this manufacturing element and lots of first boxes which you're ticking. It sounds like you are doing the teaching and the education of one of the largest PE players. So is that part of an inflection point, in your personal opinion, or is it just Bain did the right move with AqueoUS Vets and there's not so much more to see here?
So, I mean, we've seen interest from investors. I would say the entire time I've been in the water space, there's always been that interest in water infrastructure. Certainly, first time Bain is invested in a water player. And I would agree that there's a lot of learning as we built this company on what does it take to be successful in this market? What are unique to the water space? I would expect, obviously, I'm not part of their investment committee, but as part of the conversations I've been part of, I would expect that Bain will continue to invest in the space. This has been good investment so far and interest in the market. I do not have indication that they would see this as a one and done.
So what's your long-term vision for AqueoUS Vets? What's the vision?
We actually did an exercise around purpose. The horizon has 100 years, right? Our mission right now is removal of PFAS. Hopefully in 100 years, we've got that solved, but then there might be another contaminant that we don't even know about at this point in time. And so we say better water provides better life, right? Removing these contaminants to ensure that our communities are safe. So we're looking, of course, on what's that next contaminant on the horizon. How do we support that? Continuing to drive innovation, right? We pride ourselves to have a differentiated offering and that close collaboration with the customer around providing the customers with lowest cost of ownership. So we'll continue to look at different contaminants. What are the technologies needed for that? In the US, again, I could see a future where we're going beyond the US with what we have already now and helping us to really build out this platform focused around that.
So with that mission or vision in mind, what needs to happen in the next 12 months to keep you on track?
Yes. So we have had tremendous success on the commercial side. And so we're focused on executing our backlog. And as we do that, drive efficiency gains across each function. And coming from a startup company that was built around a certain size, now taking it to the next level, each function along our value chain is being challenged to do more, right? And it's not just about adding more resources, more people, and be done do it the same way. There's got to be a change in approach for us. To give you an example, we are on the application engineering side, we're implementing the Transcend design generator so that our team can use technology to help be more responsive to our customers, or the responsive as we've been, but now we are dealing with a lot more bids, making sure that we provide that expertise and knowledge as we grow the team, stay true to our differentiators, and use technology in the process. And that's an example across each function. Like how can we make sure that we provide our expertise, right, that application expertise, and to our customers while the company is scaling significantly. So that's what we're focusing on day by day.
I have a curiosity question now. because I think Transcend was here in season 1 of the podcast. So it's a while ago. How is it to roll it out, and what's your use case?
Yeah, so I have to say, from all the applications that we've rolled out over the years in the various companies, working with the Transcend team has been a true pleasure. They're really great to work with. The team is thrilled. And so we're working with them to build that proposal generator for us, again, to be able to share our unique offers to our customers, but faster with the technology at hand.
I'm going to put a link in the description for the Transcend episode. It's probably outdated because, as I said, it's a while ago. But having been myself in the position of doing these kind of proposals, I just have like a special smile whenever we touch on that, because I remember how doing proposal the hard and old way is demanding. And especially if you're a small team, it's like your turn to do it all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, the feedback that we're getting from our partners in the market is that our proposals are really standing out compared to other players in the market. We put in a lot of effort in providing high quality proposals, and we want to maintain that level. And yet we want to do more as we have more and more customers approaching us. And so how can you use technology in that scope?
So now we should, both of us, reach out to Adam Tank and ask him for a referral code, because we're just doing advertising for our staff. So we definitely should be paid for that. I have a last one for you in this deep dive, which is, we touched a bit on your experience in the water industry. You've been with majors. You've been with Siemens, you've been with Evoqua, you've been with De Nora, being slightly smaller than the two others, but still big enough to be classified in that major category. AqueoUS Vets is notably smaller. I guess it's a different experience for you. So how is it for you to have more agility, but also more, it's always up to you to do stuff, because there's not like a big corporate structure to sustain everything. How has it been for you over the past 2 years?
Yeah. So I tell you what, I'm having a lot of fun. Benefit of being part of a smaller company is that it's less complex. Right? We don't have a portfolio. Usually in a big organization like that, you have your stars in your portfolio, and then you have your portfolio elements that don't do much. Here we have one country, one market, and one product family. And we can really focus on what we're doing well and just do more of that. And so this singular focus is fun to do. Yes, there's always a concern around resources, like even in the larger companies, because then it's so diversified. And I mean, yet to be in a company where people say, we have too many resources, we're getting smaller, and we're really focusing hard and prioritizing hard. What's the next thing where we need to focus? Because we don't have an army of corporate people that support us. We do have a wonderful partner in Bain that helps us with various analysis or brings in the experts if we need them. But it is fun. It's fun to be so focused on something that you can be really good at and just doubling down on that.
But still, I've seen you at Blue Tech Forums under the De Nora hat and at Blue Tech Forums under the AqueoUS Vets hat. The difference, I would say, between the two is that when you're under the AqueoUS Vets hat, you're also the first VRP of the company. So you have to be like at round tables and also explaining what you're doing. And so there's much more hands-on. I mean, no disrespect to any of the roles, but really it's a different role. So it's also changed for you yourself. You have to be, more boots on the ground, I guess.
That is correct. It is very much roll up your sleeves and dig in and run certain projects, initiatives, questions myself to the ground. And again, it's fun to work with the team directly. Sometimes people in any organization get intimidated by the CEO title. And I always say, forget it. I'm here. I've got two hands. Let me help and move this forward.
Well, Mirka, it's been a pleasure to go through that deep dive with you. There's for sure much more we should cover in the sequel when the vision is materializing even more, because then I will need to take out of my archive the part where say you're not going to IPO because that means something else is happening. To round these conversations, I have a set of rapid fire questions. It has changed since the last time you were on, so I think you will be served with fresh questions. If not, just hit me.
Come on.
It's time for the rapid fire questions.
What is the toughest challenge in your opinion for a water tech startup?
I would say to stay focused on the one problem that you can solve best.
What would be your best single piece of advice for the founders and managers of the about 1,000 early stage water startups?
Find the one problem that you can be competitive in and really hone into that.
What's the drop of knowledge you wish more investors knew about the water sector?
It's a highly technical space, much more technical than it leads on. And so especially the application expertise, knowing when to use which technology is really important for the success in the industry.
What was your most unexpected partnership and what did it bring you?
Maybe not unexpected, but I do say the partnership with Bain has been really excellent in order to help us to scale this business to a whole nother level.
Super short, profitability or growth?
Profitable growth.
No, that's cheating.
I would say profit. Growth is coming, but let's make sure we're focusing on the profit piece of it.
Are you profitable today?
Yes.
What's the next profile you'll hire?
We have a number of roles open for design and engineering as we are scaling the business.
So you're still not replacing every single designer and engineer by Transcend. You still need to have like people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you hire, are you looking for sector experience or for startup experience?
We're actually looking for functional experience. I'm looking for people that know what good looks like in each function. It's different by each function. I do believe we can train sector experience, and we're beyond the startup phase.
I think you already answered the next one, but I'm still going to ask it. Opening new markets or doubling down on the existing ones?
Doubling down.
What's that tool nobody speaks about, but you could not live without?
I'm going to say time. Time is the tool that we have way too little of.
That's a good one. What's the single piece of insight your ideal customer profile needs to hear right now?
I would say that there's no best single silver bullet for PFAS solutions. There's no one cookie cutter approach.
What are you desperately needing and want to raise an open call for right now?
So, you know that I'm passionate about talent and I'm passionate about shaping this industry. And so I would say we urgently need people that are talented to shape this industry to the next level, not just keep doing what we're doing, but raise it.
What can and should I do for you?
I think we should have more conversations about foam fractionation.
Well, honestly, I'll be on the watch for the press release and then to see how you do vacuum-led foam fractionation. You got my water nerd brain hooked on that, so I'm going to watch it out. Well, Mirka, it's been a pleasure. If people want to follow up with you, where should I redirect them the best?
Yeah, so of course you can reach me on my email and I will respond.
As always, the links are in the description, so check them out and hope to talk to you again in a very close future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Don't Waste Water. This podcast was brought to you by GF Piping Systems. Loved this episode? Head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. See you next time.